Hey guys, welcome back.
I'm climbing the stairs. The stairs are my eye
There's
level.
a lady
Hopping up
who
the stairs.
knows all that
This isn't the
glitters
song.
is gold, and she's buying
singing a happy
the
song.
Stairway. Are you saying Stairway to Heaven's not a happy song?
The fuck part of that is happy?
Ooh, dude, she's buying the Stairway to
Motherfucker,
Heaven.
it's a satanic.
It's
song
not a
about-
fucking Satan.
Have you played it backwards? I have heard that shit. That is a Satan song. The devil made this
If
music.
there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alarmed now.
as soon
It's
as,
just a
like,
spring clean
I
for the
actually-
May Queen.
Like, I always heard the rumor about playing the song backwards makes it sound
Right.
like this satanic message or whatever. And then I actually heard it backwards. And then I really read the lyrics and I was like, this is total gibberish. They completely did this on purpose.
Maybe, who the fuck cares? It's still a happy song.
I know, but it's amusing
She
to me.
buys the Stairway, man.
Yeah, she's buying the Stairway.
That's like, wow, she bought the Stairway to Heaven. What could be happier than that? Your shield is fucking gone.
Fuck my ass. Stupid fucking wood shields. Don't I have the big shield
You do
anyways?
have
Why
the
is that not
bigger shield.
equipped?
Because you said it was
Oh yeah,
shit.
yeah, it is shit. Because you can't fucking block with it.
I've got Stairway to Heaven stuck in my head now.
When she gets there, she knows she'll buy a bunch of clothes. Was that funny?
Oh my god. Either that was hilarious, or I'm on my fourth beer and I don't know the difference anymore.
Yeah. Even I thought that was a stretch.
The fact that it's a stretch is why it's funny. Oh, Jesus H. Macy. That was a combination of William H. Macy and Jesus H. Christ.
Whoa.
Do you know who William H.
I don't
Macy
remember.
is?
Some fuckboy
I believe
from
he
history.
was the guy who played Dexter.
Oh.
I think.
That's not some fuckboy from history. That's some fucking modern fuckboy.
Yeah. You were into Dexter until it
Yeah.
turned to shit, right? Didn't it turn to shit?
I wouldn't say it was always great. It's like season 1 and 2 I remember being great, and then season 3 and 4 I remember being pretty lame. It was like 5 was cool, I think 6 was alright, and 7's lame, and I never even watched 8. I don't even think I finished season 7. I was just kind of like, I don't care anymore.
I watched the first episode of Sherlock the other day.
Yeah, how'd you like that? Would you watch any more of it?
Yeah, I'd watch it. It's funny to me, and I've told you about this before, but I was a really big fan of the Guy Ritchie films.
Yeah.
Which I'm generally a big fan of Guy Ritchie films. I want to say, I mean, I haven't seen all of them. I haven't seen the one he did with like fucking Madonna or whatever that was like critically panned. But like the 3 action films he did, Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and Rock and Rolla. I loved all 3 of those. I loved the 2 Sherlock Holmes films because, like, not only is Sherlock Holmes a fucking great character, and Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. And he's basically playing the same role as he did in Iron Man, except British. And I love the Iron Man films for the same reason, because I love that character that he plays. But what really like resonated with me about Sherlock, the Sherlock Holmes movies, was that Sherlock and Watson totally reminded me of Me and You.
Yes.
Where like
They still remind me of Me and You in the,
Right.
the BBC show too.
No, but that's
even more to me.
That's where I'm getting with this, is that the BBC show is exactly the same as the Guy Ritchie films. Like,
Yes.
it's the same fucking thing, except one is in modern day, and one is, you know, is like a weird action version of the Victorian era. But it was like, it's weird to me that, like, the BBC version seems to have, like, this huge fan base,
Yes.
and the films, like, don't, even though I'm sure more people saw the films, because they were, like, a big deal. They made a lot of money, I'm pretty sure. You know, they reviewed fairly well. But I don't feel like they're taken seriously by movie fans. You know, it's the kind of thing where people are like, oh yeah, this is a really good summer blockbuster, but you're going to forget about it. And I'm like, Well, I didn't. I loved it. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's one of my favorite movies, the Sherlock Holmes films, because I think Robert Downey Jr.'s character is really fucking great, and I love watching him. And Benedict Cumberbatch plays the same character, but just, like, more awkward.
Yes.
And, like, I guess he brings out, like, the autistic side.
Yes,
a
that's
bit
what I love
more.
about his character, is that it's like, he's so weird.
But at the same time,
I just like that character.
Like the duality I feel with it is that on the one hand, I like Benedict Cumberbatch's version because it's more awkward and more like you know, like you're not supposed to like this guy. But at the same time, that makes it like harder to buy into because it's so cheesy.
Like, I mean, it's a BBC show.
Right, his version of the character is like really like it's hard to believe it's a real guy.
Yeah, but you only watched
know?
one episode too.
Well, I've seen like parts of it where you were watching, and you know
there are certain parts
it's a very
where it's
campy
like
show.
where
you know?
he'll do something where you're like,
First,
it's obnoxious that it's a character that doesn't necessarily develop.
Right.
In a way.
His first scene that he's involved with in the show is like the police are having like a press conference, and he keeps mass texting everyone in the room wrong every time the guy says something, and I'm just like, if he's a super genius, would he really be this much of a fucking douche and like not realize it that he's I mean sometimes it's obvious he knows he's being a dick.
Yes.
Sometimes he's being a dick on purpose, like when he makes fun of the one crime scene guy.
He's usually being an ass on purpose.
Right, but then there's also times where you're like where he doesn't seem to get it, you know? And I'm like, how can he not realize what an asshole he's being or like or how awkward he's being if he's supposed to be so smart, you know? If he's this master of psychology and deductive reasoning, and I feel like Robert Downey.
Well, I mean, because he's also super autistic and like just doesn't get it.
Robert Downey Jr.'s version like is more believable in his assholeness, where it's like he feels like he's more self-aware that he's an asshole, but he just is an asshole. You know, I don't know. It's odd. I guess I like the Robert Downey Jr. version more, but also that's the one I saw first, and you know, and I'm a big fan of Guy Ritchie's filmmaking, so it's possible that it's as much that as it is anything else. But Watson is definitely more of a badass in the BBC version.
Yes,
like,
I
he's
love
a
Watson.
much more fleshed out version of the character.
He's definitely my favorite character.
But it's the dynamic between the two of them that I love about the movie so much, because it is that sort of like that bromance where, you know, like Sherlock is incomprehensible to Watson, but Watson also goes along with everything he does because it's interesting.
Yes.
And that's exactly how our relationship is. Where I'm the guy who sits up in my room, closed off from the world, constantly running through all these fucking thoughts in my head.
Yes.
And every time you come up here, it's just me rambling incoherently about all this shit. And you're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? But then you see it pan out, and you're like, oh, I guess I get it. You know? Like, this is a classic scenario between the two of us where whenever I tell Victor about Victor's gotten, I guess, more faith in me by now after this happened so many times, and I made fun of him for it. But like every single time I would tell Victor about some new idea I had, he would always be like, that's stupid. Like every time. And then he'd see it in action and he'd be like, oh, well, that totally makes sense and is awesome, you know? And it happened, like, over and over again. I'd be like, oh, man, I have this idea of all the stings and stuff. And it's just like, no. And then as soon as he sees it, he's on board. To the point where, like, with this series, you were just on board right away. Because I think you just kind of got it. And you were like, I'm sure it'll be fine.
It's just Game Grumps.
Right.
It's not much to be confused about this time.
I think it was like as soon as we had the idea of like you play all the games.
Yes, as soon as it was me playing the games, everything made sense and the planets aligned.
Right. Well, it was just like it never occurred to me before that I can't talk and play games well at the same time until like the combination of that aforementioned Zelda 1 play. Where when I was playing with them, like I just ran around for 40 minutes because I kept talking, and when I would talk, I wouldn't concentrate on what I was doing in the game, so I'd just run around in circles and fight enemies, like, and do nothing. And then it just kind of occurred to me, wow, I really can't talk and play video games, and that makes it difficult.
I actually have an interesting tangent to go on about the Sherlock and Watson dynamic.
Yes.
Because I have realized over time that I am a natural Watson. And that is, like, even beyond you, I tend to thrive with being paired with someone who is outgoing and sort of, like, intense like that. Because it allows me to, like, feed off of them and then sort of, like, make good judgments based on that.
You sort of feed off the passion of someone more passionate.
Yes. And that is why, like, I decided to choose as my path as a filmmaker to be a director of photography. Because what they do is they piggyback on the director's ideas, and then they tone down the director into something that is sensible and, like...
Well, they figure out
how to do it, exactly.
Right.
The director gives them all these fucking ideas, and then they go, alright, well, we can do this, and that's what's gonna work.
So would you say that our relationship has pushed you in the direction of becoming a DP?
But I realized that with that guy I was talking about earlier, who I will not mention his name, it's the same kind of type where he just has all these fucking ideas, and he's super just rants about stuff just like you. Like he reminds me of you all the time with how much he just goes on about things like incomprehensibly. And so it's like all the time I tone down his ideas and I turn them into something that works. And so that's why I like that dynamic, because it reminds me of my entire life of growing up with you.
And it's also like
and controlling that.
Like just the whole way that like Sherlock is always dragging Watson onto that next adventure, whereas Watson just wants to do something normal.
Exactly.
Is like, because especially in the second of the films and towards the, like, how many seasons are there of Sherlock? What was the one where he's getting married? The Watson
3.
getting married subplot
Yeah.
is what reminds me the most of me and Victor's lives, because Victor very much wants to be, like, conventional and normal in the way that...
I don't know.
You sort of do in the way that you live your life ultimately. Like, you want to have a job that's like something that exists.
Yes.
You know, you want to do so, like, cause I mean, the BBC Sherlock literally says that he invented his job.
Yes.
Just like I always say about my job. Like, whenever I tell people about what I do, I'm always like, I invented my own line of work. You know, because when I started, I mean, now what I do is sort of something other people do. There's always people who do like anime analysis and stuff like that. But when I first got started, it was with the pony analysis, and literally no one was doing that. It was something I completely made up and started doing and made a career out of, and no one had ever done that as a job before. So, and my dad loves to tell that to people. He's always like, my son invented his own job. Like, well, because he uses it to explain, like, my dad loves using me as an explanation of the younger generation.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, people...
You are the best example of, like...
Right, like, what is going on in the internet age. Where, like...
The most different aspect of...
Because my dad's a general manager of a car dealership, and, like, the car sales market is, like... really sort of, it's changing dramatically because of the modern internet age, because these days everyone online knows everything about what they purchase and like before they leave the house. So like it used to be that that car sales was all based around like what you could tell people or what you could trick them and like try to get them to spend more and
sales,
stuff like that.
All sales
but
like that.
But nowadays people walk in and they know everything about the cars that they want to buy and stuff like that. So what they've recently done is completely changed the way that they pay people at car dealerships. Like this is becoming standard, where instead of the salesman being paid by like the salesman used to be paid by commission, like however much money they made on the car sale, they would get bonuses and stuff like that, and they would increase their pay. Now they just get paid wages, and like they have to, you know, sell a certain number of cars, but they're basically just selling shit at the flat rate and you know, just being a storefront like any other storefront. They're not really salesmen anymore.
Yeah.
So this changing dynamic is completely inspired by the internet. And so when my dad tries to like tell people about like what's so different about the internet age, he always uses me as an example. He's like, my son stays in his room all day. He does a job that he invented, never has to leave the house, and when he buys stuff exactly knowing what it is. You know, like, he does research on the internet. He's already knows what his purchase is going to be. He'll either buy it online, or if he has to go to the store, he'll, you know, he knows what he's after. So there's no one can sell something to him. You know, like, that's just not how you can work with this generation kind of thing. But anyways, getting back to the Sherlock comparison.
I didn't think we were coming back to it.
He invented his own job. I invented my own job. You'd rather work something more traditional. I'm sure you'd like to eventually get married and have, like, a normal life. Because you want to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Whereas I really don't care either way. You know, like, I mean, I don't want to live at home forever and, you know, be a burden on my parents and stuff like that. But, like, the lifestyle I have right now, there's nothing that needs to be changed.
Yes.
You know, like, for me to live normally, you know, I've got a huge room that's really far away from the rest of the house, so I'm basically completely private. I even have my own bathroom and mini fridge if I decided to turn it on, but that shit's too loud, so I don't turn it on. But anyways, you know, I have a comfortable living situation. You kind of do too, but you'd rather not be at home because you'd rather, like, go off and be independent and stuff like that. But no matter what happens, you easily get dragged into bromance shit.
Yes.
You get dragged into what I want to do, you get dragged into what your friends want to do.
You know, Watson needs Sherlock, and that's what I always end up coming away from that show with, is I'm like, all the time we're always doing ridiculous shit, and we're always fucking bickering, and we're always full of bullshit, but then it's like, Watson needs Sherlock, Sherlock needs Watson. And that's how it always comes down to.
What a sweet way to end this episode of Digi Bros. Oh, we really lived up to our name. We're Digi Bros. Oh, the bromance. I've got my arm around him and we're broing it out.
Yeah, we're broing it out.
Although at a 3-foot distance, but that's it. Come back next time. Maybe we'll actually talk about Zelda, since we did for the entire Dodongo dungeon.
Who the fuck cares about Zelda?
See you next time, folks.